Like that.
Cool.
First thing I got to say, it's lovely to see you.
Yeah, you look well.
Do I?
Yeah.
Well, I thought it's been 14, 15 years since I've seen you.
Is it?
Well, it must be back in this when I first set up the studio.
Yeah, CV 33, wasn't it?
34.
34,
Close.
that's it, CV 34.
Yeah, that was. Oh no, maybe that was 13 years
Yeah,
ago.
wow.
So that was you look the same.
Yeah, pretty. Thank you.
You do.
Appreciate the compliment.
You look good, but you're living a healthy life. I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've always been into that though, from what I remember. Well, since I've met you,
Yes.
it's one of the appealing things. You were personal training, right? And yoga. Was it yoga that you were into?
No, more boxing.
Boxing
Circuits, yeah.
Yeah, I remember. It was a long time,
Yeah.
but it was good times.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks. I'm really excited because obviously I've been doing a bit of research on your website and stuff, and things have really evolved for you and what you do and what you teach.
Yeah.
You've learned a lot.
Yes.
So you must love the topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, right, I really want to see if Eileen if I can pick your brains about that kind of stuff. So we can relax and chat into it. The dog's looked after.
Dog's sorted. Yeah.
Cool. What dog have you got?
I've got 4.
Have you?
Yeah. So I've got a German Pointer, English Bull Terrier, and 2 labs.
Lovely.
One's a working lab and one's mine's a not working lab. So
What's the English one like? The Bull Terrier.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
She's gorgeous. Yeah. She's 9 now though. So
is she?
Yeah.
Wow. 4 dogs. Yeah. I really. I had Benson, who was
French
Mastiff.
I know you did. Yeah.
Yeah, he was only 6 when he died.
I know,
so.
it's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, and at the start of lockdown, so it would have been a cool chance for us to hang out.
Yeah.
Which was sad, but I'm desperate to get another.
Yeah, they're just the best.
They are, especially like living where, like what we were just speaking about in Stratford. It's a nice place to have a dog.
Yes.
A lot of people have got dogs.
Yeah, loads of people to walk around. Can you bring them into work though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't asked about this podcast studio yet.
Oh, okay.
Benson used to snore his head off though.
Yes. English Bull Terrier is the same. So when I'm work coaching, I have to put her out the room.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So that would be the only thing I'd stress about.
Yeah.
And I think I'd just be a bit distracted.
Yes.
So I probably really wouldn't want to. But people bring their dogs here.
Ah.
And in town now, like in Pret, in Starbucks, you can take your dogs in.
Yeah, no, it's great.
You see people
It's
work
changed.
there. Yeah, so I want a dog.
Yeah.
Ridgeback, I think.
Yeah, they're amazing as well.
I like the big dogs.
Yeah.
But I like to go and walk as well.
Yeah.
Benson couldn't walk.
German Pointer, can't stop her from walking.
Really?
Yeah, 10 miles, 15 miles. Athlete.
How much walking do you have to do each day with the dogs then?
I do 3 to 4 miles every day. But then we've got like land, so they just run around and play as well.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's good for you then as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
I've noticed in my own habits since not having a dog, I don't go outside as much.
Yeah.
Just I don't walk as much.
Yeah, I'm out every day.
Yeah. Well, that's what having a dog does for you. It's great.
Yeah.
It's a responsibility that I never want, and then when I've got it, I do thrive off it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
I think you just adapt, don't you?
You have to.
You adapt to not having them, but then you adapt again when you've got them.
Yeah. The hardest thing is getting one after you've adapted, though, because I've adapted now to this lifestyle where, like today, I don't have to stress.
No.
Like when you text me, can I bring the dog?
Yeah.
That's what I was like all the time.
Yeah.
And now it's just I don't have to worry about any of that, which
Yeah.
I used to think was a good thing. But I think if you have a life full of I haven't got any responsibilities,
Yeah.
it can take away some of the meaning of it.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
trying to find that balance.
It is.
And I think I know within myself I should just get one and then I'll look after it. I'll make sure
Yeah.
it's cared for.
Yeah.
And it will just mean I'll have to make some sacrifices and
Yeah.
limitations.
And get a good sitter, or even if somebody else has got a dog, like you have theirs and they have yours. So.
I know. It's the expense as well.
Yeah.
Like Benson, it cost me about 12 grand, I think, for
Did?
6 years.
Wow.
Yeah, well, it was 2 grand just to buy.
Yeah.
And then he was always ill.
Yeah. Oh, that's your vet bills, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the insurance was 100 quid a month. But then, like, if he had an ear condition, for example, if he had it twice or 3 times, obviously they'd say, oh, the insurance only covers it for X amount.
Ah.
So it was cost me a fortune.
Yeah.
But you don't care at the time. You just like,
No.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'll get one. Anyway, wanted to talk to you. Your website, I love this. It's the headline that comes out is "Get out of your own way and be the best version of yourself." So I just wanted to start here of kind of what is a classic example of like how we get in our own way, and I guess how that shapes our existence, like whilst we're here, and what it looks like. How does it show up?
I think it shows up different ways for different people, but I think as human beings, naturally, we get in our own way, which could be we have self-doubt, so you could be second-guessing yourself. That can appear in a relationship. It can appear in your business life, within an office environment where you're second guessing yourself. It could be overthinking. I find today, compared to even like 5 years ago, overthinking has increased for people, where they're just constantly analysing, sleepless nights, that high need for certainty, etc. It can be sabotage. I think every human being sabotages themselves in some way, and if it's not, doesn't show up in relationships. So I work with a lot of business people. They can have an epic business, but they sabotage their relationship. Or they have an epic relationship, but they sabotage their health. So it's always, for me, business, health, or relationships, human beings tend to sabotage one aspect in some way.
Why do we do it?
I think for me, it goes back to childhood, where a part of us felt that we weren't enough in some way, that we didn't matter, or that we didn't deserve to have it all. So as kids, we naturally want to fit in, we want to belong. And as little kids, without us even knowing that, we do that by being the good girl or the good boy. And then when we kind of don't get the attention that we want, because kids' point of view, attention equals love. And if we don't get the positive attention that we want, then we start to be a bit defiant. We break the rules, we be a little bit naughty or whatever it could be. And that's when the saboteur goes, I'm going to protect you. So anytime you shine too bright or you think you can have it all, I'm going to rein you back in. So I spoke to a client earlier, and he called his inner saboteur, it's the part of me that pulls me back in.
And this shows up as a voice, just an instinct? Like, is it that inner critic, that voice that we hear?
Yeah. Well, for many people, it's different ways. Some people, to me, are more thinkers. And some people are more feelers. So some people might hear a voice, or they might just feel a lack of energy. So they'll go to me, Eileen, I'm so demotivated. And I'm like, no, something's not in alignment here. Something's off. Something's triggered you and you're out of balance. Because human beings naturally, if you go back to childhood again, you never see a little kid that like wakes up in its cot and goes, hold on, I just want to press snooze. We naturally want to thrive. We want to be alive. We're naturally energetic. And I think we disconnect and become demotivated because of pressure, judgments, all the crap that we make up in our head.
Why do you think it's over the last 5 years that we're starting to overthink more than ever?
I certainly feel social media plays a big part in that. And I like to, as an holistic coach, I always look at things two-dimensional, the light side and the shadow side. So you could say the benefit and the consequences. And I think social media now is just part of everyone's daily life. The great thing, it helps people be connected. The downside, it certainly triggers people to be disconnected. So I'm especially seeing in younger people a lot more competing and comparing.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I think as soon as you said that, it struck a chord with me. I definitely have been more analytical, and I didn't know that it was just getting a bit older, because you hear a lot of guys in their 40s, 50s, 60s say like fear, for example, starts to increase. They're suddenly scared of things that they weren't scared of in their 20s or 30s. And I've been in this like really analytical mode at the minute. I think there's so much information.
Yes.
Even if it's good. So I'm a sucker for like just going on Amazon and buying books and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll close one book and I'll open another.
Yeah.
I'll never really sit there and go, okay, what has this taught me? How am I going to kind of like introduce some of this good information into my life?
Absolutely.
I just go straight on to the next one.
Yeah.
And I'm at this battle now of like, shall I stop reading for a bit and try and meditate a bit more, listen to what's going on inside myself a bit more, but yeah, it's just everywhere, and it's a good feeling because you feel like you're doing something worthwhile when you're reading good content and you're being busy.
Yes.
But I don't think that always helps you with introspection, just being busy.
Yeah, because again, it comes back to application. And, you can read a book all day about being a runner, but you've actually got to go and run, as we know. So I think reading is great, but a lot of my clients come to me because they've read all the personal development books, but they're like, actually, how does this personally apply to me? And what tangible tools can I use to get out of my own way? And I still feel that that's still lacking out there in the industry. I think there is a lot of information, there's a lot of great, valuable content, but people still go, I want to know how to do it.
And how do you get good at that? Like, do you think you get to a stage in life where you have to pick something that you want to get good at? Because that's another battle. So there's so many areas of your life that you can improve, right?
Yes.
And whether it comes back to complete introspection, however, that can, I think the self-development will can encourage you to be a little bit selfish. You know, it's all about me and my development, and it can sometimes take you away from getting involved in communities and being part of something. So kind of like I'm at that battle where actually I do feel sometimes at my best when I'm not trying to be better.
Yes.
I'm just putting myself in an environment where my actions contribute.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what you think to that, but it's like, yeah, how do we know what we need to get better at? Where do we start? If you go, my life, I don't feel good, my life's not good, I've got 20 things I feel like I need to fix. Where on earth do you even start?
I think you start with what you feel is the start for you, and that's the challenge, because there's so much noise on. You know, if you grow a business, you know, I've got my business clients going, Eileen, shall I do a newsletter? Shall I do a podcast? Shall I do a YouTube? Shall I do this? And it's like, whoa. It's like, hold on. What thing is going to probably give you the biggest impact, but also you're going to enjoy it? Like, life is meant to be enjoyed. Human beings are meant to smile. You know, we used to smile as little kids, and I think it all just gets too consuming. But I think for me, what really helped me, because obviously I was great at sabotage. I would say I've got never been to university, but I had a PhD in self-sabotage. And I would just sabotage a relationship. Every time it was going good, I would sabotage it. And then I got to see that pattern. And then I was like, okay, how can I change this? And that's when I went off and I flew to America and I got a coach and I worked on myself. And I continually to this day still work on myself. And what helped me to stop sabotaging me was, it's not about you. It's not about you, because the ego, the brain is me. And I personally don't feel we've evolved much more than a 2 or 3 year old. So we want it to make it all about ourselves. We don't get what we want the way that we want it. We have a tantrum. And that could be a health goal, business goal, relationship goal. But I think if we make it about other people, then we can go to that place of, today is on loan to me. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. And you've got to drill that into your frigging brain, because the brain just adapts quickly to things and quickly just takes things for granted. So it's like, how can we bring it back? And to me, it's like, today's on loan to me. How can I have a great day? What would be great for me today? What do I need today? And how can I be of service for others? How can I, you know, my little mantra for myself is be the messenger. Just get out your own way, be the messenger. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about others, which then helps me. That makes sense.
It does make sense. I think that's difficult in today's day and age, because it does seem to be about the individual. So how did you take that approach then to, like, if you find this pattern of like sabotage relationships, how do you not make that about you but improve your life?
Great question. I think I had to take responsibility and jump out of the victim part of my brain, which I think everyone has, that victim part of their brain where, oh, poor me, I've been hurt, I've been let down, everything's horrible, blaming other people. So I had to firstly become aware of that pattern and then go into, okay, what is the one thing that I can do? What is the first step that I could do to try and break out of that pattern? And then to be patient as well, because many of us have had patterns for, like, you know, if you're in your 40s, we've had thought patterns for about 30 years. You know, it's not just childhood. We've had experiences at school or football clubs, or mine was the Brownies. I went to the Brownies. For me, they just didn't like me. But actually, it wasn't. My energy was too high for that environment when I look back, because it was like sit in a little row. When I was like buzzing off my tits all the time when I was 10, like, you know, my energy, I've got a lot of energy.
Sure.
So it's just the wrong environment. But your brain can make up a lot of stories, and then you drag that shite around with you.
I get that. But how does that link to... Doesn't that come back to working on the self then? So does that not come first and then the community aspect comes second? So the relationship example, because I always bring relationships because they're the thing that have tested me to the absolute limits.
Yeah.
And I think did you mention that it's relationships, health or business?
Yes.
People usually scupper one.
Yeah.
From what I see, relationships is a pretty common one for people to scupper. It's
yes.
normal. So, yeah, is there a kind of like path where you go, well, yeah, for me to be in a healthy relationship, there's work that I need to do on myself, or is the work done in the arena of the relationship?
Brilliant.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
do you go, I can't be in one right now because
Yeah.
I don't even like who I am,
Yeah.
and go to work on yourself? So it might seem a little bit like individualism from the start.
Yeah, I would say for me, that's what I did. I had to work on myself. I had to step out of, part of me blaming men. I went from blaming men to then blaming myself. Mm-hmm. And then I switched between the both. And then I went, right, I need to have a clean sheet and just not date for a while. So then I had to have just, total abstinence, just be with yourself. Now, for some people, that's very challenging because we attach to other people for approval, please tell me how beautiful I am or how strong I am. And then when we don't get it, then we feel deflated. So I went, right, I had to put in a healthy boundary, which what they say in today's language. But I made a decision. Year out, Miss McCotter, be on your own. So that was the first thing. And then I sat with working on myself. Okay, so what are the type of guys I'm attracting? How come I'm attracting those type of guys? What type of behaviour am I putting out? What am I looking for? How do I set men up that they can't also have a relationship with me? So I think I had to, 1, take some space out, be with self. That's a challenge. 2, look at the pattern that I had. And 3, put my hand up and take responsibility. Because if you want change, you have to take responsibility. And that's not saying, oh, Eileen, you did that wrong, you did that bad. That's like persecution and self-judgment. It's more, do you know what? Okay, I was responsible for that. And then you have to go back out the door and play. But most people, when they go out the door to play, I want to find my perfect partner. No such thing. No such thing. So they set themselves up before they get out the gate. The horse bolts, wants to go back in. And then we watch Netflix, eat crap, feel shit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, familiar. Yeah. How do you know whether someone's good enough for you? Without searching for perfect, because you got to have some values and boundaries, right?
Yes.
Do you know those up front before you get into any relationship, or do you work them out in it?
I think every partner, my experience, every partner I've dated has taught me and reminded me of my values. And every partner, I've seen every past partner as my teacher. I'm married now, I'm happily married. I've been with my husband now for 10 years. We've been married for 8, even though the other day I thought it was 7. We're still working on it.
Sure.
He's my teacher and I'm still the student. Because you mirror each other's baggage. So there's no such thing as the perfect one, the right one. There is certain stuff as a toxic relationship. But for me, if you have a more healthier relationship with yourself, you naturally will attract that in.
Do you have the confidence and inner strength to know that you'll be all right, no matter what happens in a relationship?
Yes.
You do?
Didn't. Do
Sure.
now.
What kind of guys were you attracting before you did all this work? What was the common pattern?
My common pattern was I would attract very charming, very funny men that were very good at the talk, and be very charming. So they would seduce the hell out of me. And because part of me didn't value myself, when they give me all these words, affirmation, affirming words, I was all over it. I was like, oh yeah, tell me more. Like, I don't need it, but I do need it.
Yeah.
I don't need it, but I do need it type thing. Like, inside every man is a little boy that felt unloved. Inside every woman is a little girl that felt unloved. So we walk around going, you're going to, fulfill that missing part of me. You set the other person up. Rather than what I've done, and I met my husband. My husband was doing he had baggage, he had a broken heart, but he could self-reflect. He took ownership faster of his part in our, little arguments. And I was like, I can see some mature traits here. So without a doubt, we want to go out there and match someone who's got more mature traits, which is, I didn't mean to say that. That wasn't my intention. I apologise. However, this is how I'd like to do it next time. But I had to learn that, you know, with a coach over time. And now I coach other people that as well.
So interesting what you're describing. Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting how, so I guess that was an attractive quality in your husband, right? The fact that he had that awareness and he had that taking responsibility. Because that's pretty much what we try and teach in the Better Man. It's encouraging men to be more responsible.
Yeah.
And part of that is self-awareness and emotional control, which sounds straightforward. It's really not. No. Especially if you've, like you say, if you've had 30 years of practicing the opposite, you know, letting your emotions absolutely steal you. You're right. To try and have that kind of change. And it's usually after some kind of like horrendous things happen, some crisis point, like your partner leaves you or you get your heart broken again or you sabotage the same shit again. It usually takes something bad for you to, or it did in my, well, no, in most cases, it's the thing that kind of drives introspection is like that, why do I keep ending up in these same shitty situations? Because you said this earlier, like you were blaming men. It's so easy to go down that road for us as well and go, all women are fucking hard work. They're all the same. Yeah. It's a dangerous place to be when you tarnish everyone with a brush, isn't it? Yeah.
And for me, what I found, my journey, was what I was attracting. I was attracting men who I wanted to father me. So I wanted them to acknowledge me, affirm me, fill this gap in me that was missing in me really believing in me. They wanted me to mother them. So from a coaching perspective, it comes down to masculine energy is supposed to affirm and acknowledge a child when they're growing up. Mm-hmm. And feminine energy is supposed to inspire a child to know self. So opposites attract. So I was pulling in men that appeared strong on the outside, very resilient and tenacious, which they were, but on the inside, emotionally, they were stunted. They were like a little frozen boy. So they needed me to be mummy, but I also needed them to act out like to be daddy. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And the relationship then falls apart because neither one of the two partners are meeting those expectations.
What do you think about the way boys are being brought up now? So in terms of encouraging boys and men to be vulnerable, emotional, you can be what you want, you can be an object, a different sex. What do you have views on it, or do you just go about and live your life?
Yeah, I have views on it. I try not to get pulled too much into that narrative because for me, my experience, it all comes down to belonging. Everybody wants a sense of belonging, and I think children nowadays they're not feeling that got sense of belonging. You know, if you look at it, two parents are working or busy or they're preoccupied, and kids aren't feeling seen and heard in the way that they need, so they go off and try and find a sense of belonging. I don't think you can have it all. I think there's a consequence to everything. Mm. And I think that's the bit that we often don't share with children. Like, you can do that, but what's the consequence of that? Does that make sense? So I'll give you a little scenario. When my daughter was 13, 14, she came home. She went, "Mom, I want to have a tattoo." Now, I could have gone, "No, you're not having one." And I knew that her friends were having one. You can go and get anything, even though you're meant to be 18. So I thought, okay, I don't want to be that parent where I say no, but I certainly didn't want her to have a tattoo at that age right there and then. So I said to her, "I'll tell you what then, Tiana, you can have a tattoo if you play this game." She's like, "What game's this?" I goes, "Can you write down, go upstairs and write down what's the great thing about you having a tattoo and what's the consequence of you having a tattoo, and just fill up that page." She went, "Yeah, I'll do that. Are you sure?" And after that, I can have a tattoo. If you do this exercise, you can have your tattoo because it's going to be your choice. Anyway, she went upstairs. She wrote 3 things. One is, my friends have got one. I'm going to be like my friends and I want one. So very juvenile young brain, yeah? I said, "What's the consequences?" She put, "There aren't any." Mm-hmm. So I went, okay, so what if the consequences are, what if you don't like it when you're 23, 53 and 73? She went, "Oh, I might not like it when I'm that old." age. And that opened her up to think about the consequences. She goes, what if I get an infection, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, she ripped up the paper. She went, I don't want a tattoo. I went, well, it's your choice, your decision. She went, I want a belly button piercing. She's a teenager. I went, cool, do the same exercise. I can't be asked. So at the age of 18, she went and got a tattoo off her own accord, but she did her research. She looked into the consequences, because I didn't say, yes, you can, no, you can't. I put her in a position of, if you're going to make this decision, you want to be aware of your decision. For me, I feel sometimes that's not being passed down to our younger generation. Like, you can do that, but what could be the possible consequences of that? And have you really thought that through?
And this starts from the parents leading the line, or our education system?
Both.
Yeah. Okay.
Both.
Do you think people are capable of like teaching those lessons, like if they don't know them themselves?
I think that's the challenge. They're not aware of it, and most parents are just doing. Most parents parent how they were parented, or they go the opposite polarity. So I've got parents that go, my dad was a bully, my dad was strict, my dad hit me, so I'm not going to be that person with my kid. And then they're soft as anything, and their kids manipulate them. Like, kids are brilliant at manipulating adults. They're meant to. They're kids. They're cute. That makes sense.
Yeah, they always say you either head in your parents' direction, or you swing round and go the opposite way.
Yeah.
Do you ever get cynical when you look around and, like, if you've done a lot of work on yourself, you become slightly more self-aware than maybe the average person, so you can see things that other people might not be able to see. So do you ever lose heart when you kind of notice that the parents haven't got the skills to teach their youngsters, so you kind of can see that the path is not going to be potentially as good as it could be, or as educational as it could be, or there isn't enough wisdom passed down like there might have been in the older days when boys had to go through these ceremonies and pass. Do you ever like become a bit downhearted or?
No, because I think if you look back in history, things evolve, things change. They always have, but I just believe that we'll come back to homeostasis. Things will like balance and calm down again. I think at the moment it's out there, and who knows what it's going to be like in the future. But I think parents, people don't know what they don't know. And some people will go through life just not wanting to know. And human behaviour, we repeat loyalty from our family. We this is what my family thinks what's right, so I'm going to do that as well. We just repeat all these patterns. So for me, rather than getting cynical, I just see it for what it is. And that's one of my favourite sentences to myself. It is what it is.
Yeah, I find it difficult, if I'm honest, to remain positive. And I think even that statement, to see it as it is, sometimes even my perspective can be completely flawed. So to say, for me I see it as it is, I have to even question that.
Yeah. Because
have you ever kind of changed your, like you say, that all men are like this, all women are like this, that's how you truly saw it at the time, and it was true at the time.
Yeah.
So it's only when you challenge these perceptions, isn't it, and perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have to be careful when I go, yep, this is the way it is. And I'm like, well, is it? Or is it just the story that you've made and the conditioning that you've had and the values that you've been given? And so I'm always questioning everything. But that analysing can lead to the overthinking too, where you start to think about everything. And what's the point in this? Like, how are we going to change? And all you do is ask questions. Yeah. And you don't live when you don't do. Yeah. You think. Do you know what I mean? So it's a real... self-development and change is really difficult.
Absolutely it is.
Really difficult.
Absolutely. And I think when I look back on my career path, I used to work with young offenders. I used to try forcing young people to change. And then when I was in the health and fitness, sometimes I was trying to force people to get slimmer and fitter. And now, probably of trying to do a lot of that and then questioning my own skills and abilities with that, I've now got to this place of, unless someone's, if someone's not reaching for help, if they're not seeking, if they're not looking, if they're certainly not curious, they are where they are. And people have got to wake up in their own way. And my experience is, unless someone is truly sick and tired of something, the brain will stay in, I call it ego rationalisation. It will just rationalise, well, I don't really need it. Yeah, I know I'm not happy in a relationship, but I'm okay. So they're going to stay where they are. So for me, I now work with people that are reaching. They want to help themselves and they know they probably need to do the work. And other people that aren't reaching, they are where they are. And it's just about having that level of acceptance. And for me, with young people possibly wanting to change gender, you know, they're trying to help themselves in a way. They're trying to get a sense of belonging. They're trying to find out this thing that's missing in them. The only challenge is they could change their gender or their title or, you know, want to be called a they now, but still there's a thing missing because it hasn't filled the spot.
Did you ever have any doubts then when you were coaching it, you know, during this transition when you were trying to almost encourage people to be fit and healthy who may not have wanted to? Did it ever come back on you and you start to question whether you were doing a good job?
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you said
1,000. I was like, I've got to go on another course. I need
exactly, yeah.
You know, I went from personal training to nutrition to psychology. I was like, I need to do something else. And then when I learned about self-sabotage, that what if part of everyone's brain and ego benefits by staying stuck? And since I've ran that into my brain, I'm like, people benefit. People love to walk around, unfortunately, look what happened to me, I've been hurt, and I'm not trying to disregard people's pain.
Sure.
But there comes a time, you know, I have been hurt, but how do I want tomorrow to be? For me, that's the difference.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree with you totally. My brain just goes, how can we encourage more people to have that attitude? Because when we talk about global change, I always think we should start at the individual level, like especially in a long-term approach, right? Like you get yourself in order. Maybe when you have kids, you can bring them up better than the guy who hasn't done the work on himself.
Yeah.
So like, how do you drive that societal change where you go, this victim mode that most of us are in is no longer acceptable. We want to change. We want a better world. We want better people. We want better children. But where do you even start with that? Because I haven't got a clue on a societal level.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I don't think the victim mentality will ever leave because it's part of human behaviour. And, you know, when you look at the energy within a house, there's always a character that's more of a victim, one that's more the punisher, and one that's more the rescuer. But I think from a society point of view, I think we can look too big and too wide, which can be overwhelming. And I just see myself on, okay, I'm one piece of the jigsaw puzzle. If I do my piece and I do the best that I can with that piece, that's my focus.
Sure. How many children do you have?
I have one child, one daughter, one grandson, and lots of stepchildren.
Cool. And would you say they've all benefited from you doing all this work on yourself?
Yeah, like my daughter was really funny because obviously I used to, you know, go off on a course to America, come back and practice on her. Like she's seen me back in the day, you know, eating carrots and putting my hands over them, getting energy off them, like all weird shit back in the day. And she's like, Mum, do you know what? This, you know, talking to people differently works. Like she came home, I think she was like 18, 19. She goes, my boss said to me, you know, Chiana, you've got an attitude problem. And she just gave it back to her boss and went, well, that's your experience. Mm-hmm. If that's your experience, I get it. Rather than she took it on, took it personally, you know, then it affected her. So I think, yeah, she's definitely benefited. My husband also, because it's a change of language. It's more mature language, taking responsibility. You can model it, people pick it up. So he's picked it up. He now loves the coaching. He's come to me to America because he's wanted to. He now shares it in his business. In his business, people go to him. He's a big guy. He's 6'3", looks like a masculine male. Inside, he's a big teddy bear. And he won't mind me saying that, but my experience, he's a big teddy bear. He's got a lot of love to give. He's a loving little boy and a loving man. So he's got lads now that are looking at him to be that role model of, you know, I'm messed up. Don't worry, you messed up. We mess up. What can we do differently?
Yeah, I can only think of going down that road for societal change. It's the most difficult one, for sure, because it means everyone has to step up and do the work, right?
Yes.
This is why I'm cynical, because I know people won't.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but that is a good example of how your actions can spread into this spider web, and then, you know, to your husband, who's now helping loads of people too.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like. It's like this infectious energy that can be spread. This is why I sometimes sit and I'm debating. I feel so stupid, Eileen, sometimes, because I'm debating people. I debated a professor last week. This guy's fucking smart as hell, Cambridge. But he was all about government and high-level societies. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Of course, that makes a big change. But what about the individual? You know, what about our contribution? Because it adds meaning to our life too.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at the government waiting for them to make these big changes, I'm like, I feel pretty helpless. But I think there's things each individual can do and go, okay, yeah, I can't fix climate change or anything out there. But what about my home?
Yeah.
What about my little four walls? What
Yeah.
about inside of me?
Yeah.
I think if everyone started there, we'd have a different world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wouldn't we? We'd live in such a more peaceful and loving place.
Yeah.
But it's hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something, you know, you continually work at. You'll have good moments, not good moments. When we're sort of disconnected to our own self, then, you know, you don't feel as, I don't know, content or happy or positive. We're human beings.
Sure. Yeah.
However, we don't have to go out projecting our shit all over people and our reactive behaviour either. And if some of us can look into that and own that, then you've got the ripple effect because you just share it with those around you.
Do you have quite a tough love approach in your coaching?
Yes, I have because the ego, I call it the ego, people call it the brain, the mind is a trickster. It loves to play tricks. It likes to make up all these stories. We love to drag all our shit around. You know, if I give you an example, I was coaching somebody yesterday and they said, you know, if I could just get, you know, to next year, this time next year, I'll be in a better place. And I was like, can you hear it? And they were like, what are you on about? Can you hear it? It's called CE. And they're like, no. Controlling ego. There's no guarantee you're going to wake up tomorrow. Let's rein it back. Today is on loan to me. If I look after today and keep an eye on tomorrow, that's more than enough. But we're always like 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. I know that's needed for things like, you know, climate change, you know, building a big railway. But everyday human beings, we need to bring it back to focus on today and then look after tomorrow. But his brain was playing games on him. So, yeah, then people call me, you know, I kind of, what's the word? They call me that I just break down their bullshit. It's not their bullshit, it's their brain's bullshit. Because the brain picks up a lot of bullshit as we go through life.
Yeah, I think you're right though. I think we do spend too much time thinking of next year or 10 years and some visions that we're asked to create. And then when you really truly ask yourself what you've done on that day anyway to make that vision start to kind of like happen, the answer is usually zero. So kind of, yeah, I think I've always been that style. I'm always obsessed with like all the micro habits, all the small things that seem so insignificant today, but in a year, I mean, that's what health and fitness is, isn't it? It's
absolutely.
that one session that you think isn't making a deal, but if you do it 300 times out of 365, you've got a healthy body.
Yeah.
And yeah, I always have to rein myself into today. The thing that changed the game for me, Eileen, was focusing more on being a more disciplined man rather than a man who sets goals.
Yes.
Because it was the discipline that I was lacking as a man. It got me into all sorts of bother. People never really want to talk about discipline and mental health, but I think the number one thing I've done for my mental health that's improved it is become more disciplined.
Yes.
So the way that I start my day, the way that I finish it. Yeah. Self-trust.
Yes.
Self-respect.
Yeah.
And that's come from all the real small things that you wouldn't even think of. Like if I say I'm going to get up at 6:30 a.m, for me I have to, otherwise I've lied to myself.
Yeah.
So if you said, Alex, tomorrow I'll meet you for coffee at 2:30 and you didn't show up.
Yeah.
And then the next day you said I'll meet you at 2:30 and you didn't show up. Eventually I'll be like, Eileen, just fuck off. You're full of shit.
Yeah.
I think we do that to ourselves all the time.
Yes.
So I started looking at all these real small things and saying these are important.
Yeah.
Because how am I going to achieve the big stuff if I can't achieve the small stuff?
Yeah.
It made no sense to me. I had a coach at the time, he was great, but he was going, no, we've got to think bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was like, I just want to think smaller.
Yeah.
I need to think about today. How do I show up today?
Yeah.
So that approach worked well for me.
And that worked well for me. I remember you've took me back like in time, books that I first read, because I wasn't a book reader as a kid particularly. But it was, because what I got from what you shared was integrity, you know, having that true to your own word. And again, there was areas of my life where I was really true to my word, but then there was areas of my life I just wasn't true to my word, and I didn't have it, and I was dead flaky. You know, I was that, oh yeah, I'll do this, and that's when I read the book, The Four Agreements by Don
Miguel Ruiz.
Don Ruiz. And one of those was, you know, have integrity. And once I read that chapter, I was like, do you know what? I couldn't see it at first, because again, people can't see their own patterns of behaviour. It's hard to see. And I was like, do you know what? I can be flaky, or I do cancel things last minute, or I do come up with an excuse. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to have more integrity. And that was a fundamental for me. And now my integrity is probably one of my highest values, because it's like a muscle. You just use that muscle more and more and more and more. The bigger, the stronger it gets.
Yeah, and this is how I think every guy should start. Rather than going, right, it's day one of the program, set a goal. I'm like, well, let's have a look at your, like you say, your levels of integrity, your levels of discipline, because the character for me of someone is important.
Yes.
If they fail their goal, that's fine, because it happens, right?
Yes.
But this whole, like, here's the goal. If you hit it, you've succeeded. If you miss it, you've failed. I'm trying to install better qualities in men. And that's because they were so lacking in me, and it creates a pretty miserable life. One, you don't like yourself, and two, your general outcomes are shit. You can't hold it. How can you have a good relationship if you've got no integrity?
Yeah.
You fucking can't have one, can
No.
you? So you end up destroying that for yourself and for the other person.
Yes.
So you can have all the good intentions you want, but for me, there's an element of training, right? Okay,
Yes.
you want more courage and integrity. We've got to build those.
Yeah.
And it's hard. I still have to do it now. I haven't. I was 38 and I still need to do a lot of work on integrity areas of my life. And it's funny you say that. I read books like The Four Agreements, and there was a woman in my life at the time, and every time he kind of said something, I'd be like, yeah, that's her. And then at the end I thought, oh my God, you've missed the whole point of the book, especially about
about yourself.
But isn't that crazy how like, I don't know whether you would say that was the ego deflecting it all onto the person. Yeah, they do that. That person's got that problem. And you read it like a saint. Like you've got nothing wrong with you. So I think it is always coming back. Like I said, the only battle for me there is like everything becomes about me.
Yes.
And I can become a little bit self-involved then.
Yes.
So I always find if I can tie that into a good cause.
Yeah, absolutely.
The integrity version of Alex comes out anyway.
Absolutely. And that is what changed my relationship with myself, and certainly with my clients, was I'm okay with sabotaging myself because I'm pretty good at it, but I'm not okay if other people are out there sabotaging themselves, and I could hold space for them. And I used to show up all the time then.
Who is this imposter that you speak of then all the time? So is the imposter the person that does the sabotage? So like, who is that person that we might not recognise that's within us, or that person that comes along, like I say, does do the destroying? Do you think we're like split into pieces and we've got different personalities, or do you think it's just conditioning over years and years? Like what do you think the imposter is?
Yeah, for me, I think we have different memories, and then from those memories we get emotional blocks, or we get emotional stunted, or that part of us stop growing. So for me, I see my brain and my character as different parts of me. Because when I got into personal development, I did that, affirmations, looking in the mirror, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful. But the voice went, no, you're fucking not, no, you're not. So I thought, that doesn't work for me. But when I learned to change my language to, okay, there's a part of me that lacks integrity, but there's another part of me that's really integrous. Then the brain, it's called integration, then you can get the two parts of the brain to work together. So I think there's many parts of our character. There's not just one character. And I think when we go down using the words I, then we're doomed.
Do you meditate?
Not particularly seated meditation, but I do walking meditation. So to me, if you look at what meditation is, it's kind of like hearing your own self, hearing prayers. It's kind of like hearing it come back to you. So mine is walking in nature, because me sitting down still, breathing, closing my eyes, I can do it, but I don't enjoy it the most. Yeah,
and that's why I asked, because of that story you just shared about you looking in the mirror and saying I'm beautiful, and straight away another voice goes, but you're not.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, which are they both your voices, or is one the real Eileen and one's the saboteur? I find that battle fascinating.
Yes.
And the fact that you're aware of it and can hear it, some people aren't. But like, what do you do then? So you've noticed this split in you. you've got this one voice saying you're beautiful, you've got this one voice saying that's bullshit.
Yeah.
What do you do then to turn the noise down on the saboteur voice?
Yeah, I get them to communicate, because often what I found, most people when they hear a voice in their head, they either believe the voice. So if the voice goes, "You're a piece of shit," and then you go, "Yeah, I am," and then you don't do anything. Or if the voice says, "You're a piece of shit," and you go, "No, I'm not," and you start to argue with the voice. Yeah. Or you go, "You're a piece of shit. Oh, let me try and turn the voice down." That's what I learned in NLP. Those strategies personally didn't work for me. So what worked for me was be curious about the voice. So rather than making it about me, I was like, what does the voice want from me? Is the voice masculine? Is the voice feminine? Is the voice younger than me? Is the voice older than me? What does the voice want? And often the voice wants you to stay safe. So if I'm in the mirror going, I'm beautiful, and the voice is going, "No, you're not," then guess what? I'm not going to go back out to play. I'm not going to go and meet a guy. And then I'm not going to be hurt either. And the voice often come from a place of protection. Stay in. Stay small, stay safe. Because the human brain and psyche doesn't give a shit if you're happy or sad. There's thousands of people walking around out there miserable, alive. The brain only cares about that you survive. Mm-hmm. And it's in control. So once I got my head around that, I was like, okay, I'm going to be curious about the voice. So I turn to the voice and say, okay, is that what you think? Do you think I'm not good looking? And then the voice will go, no. It talks back to you in a mature dialogue, and that's what I do, and that's what I teach many of my clients to do as well.
Have you gone any deeper on that and started to wonder where the voice comes from, like whether it's within you or whether it's outside of you? Like, have you ever?
Yes.
Yeah, you have, yeah. Because again, I spoke to Brian earlier, and he was like, he's a very smart guy. He was like, I can't control what thoughts pop into my head. Yeah. He's like, and I haven't got a clue where they come from. No one has. Yeah. Have you spent much time thinking, where do these thoughts come from?
Yeah, for me, they're just loyal thoughts that have came from childhood.
But you think they're coming from like the brain? Yeah, not like a soul or an energy.
I think they're coming from the brain, and then then those voices give us an automatic response then in our body as well, because voices aren't a bad thing. And I've got like a whole webinar on self-talk. Like, when you're walking across the road, I was walking across the road the other day and I see a car, the voice goes, "Hurry up, Eileen." And I'm like, shit, I'm going to get run over. So that's a positive voice. But you can have a negative voice that's trying to make you feel safe, small, stuck. And for me, that's coming from a part of the brain. Because the part of the brain wants you to stay in your comfort zone, and it wants control. If you go out on a date, how can you control if the other person is going to see you again or not? You can't. It's out of your control. Does that make sense? Yeah. The brain don't want that. So the brain will go, "You're a piece of shit, Alex. Look, you've got failed relationships. You're 38. You should be further ahead. Look at your mates now. They've got kids. You're a no one." And then you go, "Do you know what? I'll go to the gym and do some bicep curls instead." For example.
You sound like you know me. Look at that, was too frightening. You just crawled in my head there or something.
This is human behaviour. Yeah. This is what I do all day, every day with people.
Do you know what? You're spot on though. I do that. Like, and I can laugh about it, but I genuinely do that. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go and fucking tear it up then in the gym. Yeah. It's the answer.
Yeah. Well, that's part of you is protecting you. Mm. So we want to thank that part, but we don't. Instead we go, I shouldn't be doing that. What am I doing? I'm not even trying. Rather than I get part of you. I see it like there's a part, everyone's got like a fire guard around their heart. And they go, I just don't want to be hurt again. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be humiliated. And we've all had that in childhood, school, wherever. So we don't want it again. The brain doesn't want it again. It's uncomfortable. No one goes, woohoo, I want to be hurt. Mm. Bring it on.
But that voice makes me think there's something, the voice that told you to get across the road because the car was coming, that sounds like higher power stuff to me.
Well, yeah.
Like, that I can't explain, like some sublime thing. I'm not sure.
Well, for me, it comes from, there's that intuitive part of me that's always looked after me.
But what's that?
Yeah, well, that's that part, because again, I think there's different parts. There's a part that intuitively looks out for you. There's another part that looks comes across like it's criticising you, condescending you, but really it's wanting you to stay safe.
Have you ever had to turn to faith or something higher than yourself in times of like distress?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, my family or my parents particularly, devoted Catholics, church, that didn't work for me. But I don't even know what I believe in, but I do believe there's something higher and bigger. So I call it the higher purpose. Some people like to call it the universe. So yeah, I'll go for a dog walk and chat to a cloud. If you drove past me, you probably think I'm a lunatic, but I'll have like outward chats. So, other parts of me can hear that kind of advice or can, hear that, do you know what, just give it a go. Do you know what, what's the worst that could happen? You know what, you're here to have experiences, Eileen. You're here to like try things and find out what you like and what you dislike. Life is short. Today is on loan to you. Those voices then come through and then I go, do you know what, do it.
Do you actively practice that kind of positive talk that you've just said? Or are you that aware now that you go for a walk and you kind of know you're going to reinforce good things?
Yes.
You do. You actively look for a period of time where you talk like that to yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even like before I'm going to go and present, the voice will go, you don't know the material, you don't know what you're doing this for. And then I just go, I hear you. However, I'm here to be the coordinator for others because it's not about me. And I hold the space for others, and then that in turn helps me.
See why I love doing this podcast, right? It's like just education all the time, just learning off people. Everyone's got their own perspectives and way of doing it. But that inner voice is something that's within everybody. Yes. So I think it's worth paying attention to. You sound like you've trained it.
Yes.
You sound like you've got it on a leash and you can pull the reins a bit.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me anyway. It doesn't sound like it owns you anymore.
And it's still there, hasn't gone
away.
Sure,
but that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've just got a
and
bit
whenever
of a
I'm going to do something new or different or what could be perceived as fearful or scary, it's back and it's strong and it's dominant.
But you know it.
And I know
you
it.
know what it is.
Yeah.
I think you take some of its fear away and power when you know it, when you can put it in front of you. I think when you try and hide it and suppress it and pretend it's not there, it can get hold of you more. It's like in psychotherapy, they will say the worst thing you can do is kind of leave it in the basement. You've got to shine a light on these shadows, these dark things, and they can lose a bit of their power then. You understand it. You know what it wants. You can see it. You can talk to it.
Yeah.
You can give it a name.
Yeah.
But it's not hidden.
Yeah, it's not hidden, no.
Anymore.
Because for me, my experience, the voice wants to belong. But what you're doing is fighting it, pushing it away, and then it becomes either very crafty, it sneaks up when you're not ready, or it'll just overpower you. So for me, it's like, how can we work with these internal voices? They are there. Often they're coming from a place of care and support, and they want you to be safe, which means stay small, stay single, skint and miserable, but you'll be safe.
Yeah, for sure. What was that year like for you where you kind of had that, I'm going to take a year off, I'm not going to get involved in a relationship, I'm going to work on me? Because that sounds really appealing. Like I like the idea of, we call it going underground for a year. Yeah. Where you might knock the social media on the head perhaps, or just do something that says I'm going to put more time and energy into my own growth versus my phone. What was your experience like? What did you learn about yourself in that year?
I got uncomfortable because I spent more time on my own because I was always a busy person around lots of people. I also, without me knowing at the time, but I was hiding behind my daughter, like I'm a mom, etc. But my daughter started going out then. She was a teenager. She was having her own life. And I was like, Remember one time she said, Mom, I'm going to spend New Year with you. And I was like, great. And then it came to New Year's Eve. Mom, I'm going out. And I wouldn't hold her back. I was like, bye. And I was like, what am I going to do? I'm here on my own. And, and then I went, okay, I can put on a romantic movie and feel sorry for myself because that's what you would do.
Yeah.
Or I could watch a comedy. Or what else could I do? And so I just got to enjoy being with me, I suppose, which was very new for me. I was born into a household. There were 7 of us, Irish Catholic family. My life's always been busy with people. I was like, I need to be with myself. So that I read, I journaled, I meditated. That's probably when I did a lot of self-development work. I got a coach. I stopped trying to do it on my own as well. Because I can do this. I know this stuff. I needed someone to challenge my thought processes and my perceptions. And that wasn't easy either. I would get off a coaching call and not feel great. I'd feel shit. Because the coach wasn't going to replace one of these guys and validate me and acknowledge me. How can I do that for myself? If that makes sense.
What was your like crisis point or darkest time where you were like, oh, shit needs to change?
I remember one day looking out the window in my house. I think my daughter was in her bed and she must have been about 6 or 7 at the time. And I was trying to be with my daughter's dad, and the relationship, it was like trying to put a circle into a square. And he was a square and I was trying to make him be a circle, and vice versa. And so we were off, we were on, we were together, we were not together. It was like this toxic pattern really of together and not together. And I remember looking out the window just going, I just want all this to end. I couldn't see at that point there's light at the end of the tunnel. And I would go to the gym and I would teach my fitness classes. Grapevine, come on. I would come out of that class and cry in the car. I'd cry before class. I'd go into class, put my mask on. I'd come out of class, go back on my own and cry and feel sad. And I was being the victim, just feeling sorry for myself. And I was in a big hole of it. And I looked out the window that day and I went, I just don't want to be here anymore. And then I realised it was part of me doesn't want to be here anymore. Part of me doesn't want to be in this push-pull toxic relationship, which was really affecting my soul and my spirit, because I was a very happy, energetic individual, but I couldn't get this part of my life to work. And that's what I was like. And I looked back at my daughter in the bed and I went, well, I can't go anywhere. I'm not leaving her. She's not asked for this. And I'm meant to be here. And that's when I went, right, I need to... And my friends were great, but my friends also didn't get it, because friends sometimes feed your own thought pattern. I'd be like, he hurt me, he's a wanker. And because they love me, yes, he's a wanker. That didn't help me. But they were just trying to protect me as well. And then I was like, I've got to get out of the circles that I'm in. And that's when I flew to America. I had zero money. I paid for the airfare. I was there for 10 days. I had $100, £10 a day, to get me breakfast, lunch and dinner. It wasn't easy. I got a babysitter for my daughter. I had to leave my daughter. That made me feel bad. She said to me, Mummy, do you have to go? I had guilt, massive guilt. And I went, something has to change. And that's why unless someone is sick and tired of where they are, the brain will repeat. And I was sick and tired.
I wish there was another way, but I don't think there is to change.
My experience, no. People have to get so sick and tired of the shit that they're in that they go, do you know what? What else is there? What else is there? And that was another voice that I had. I had that negative voice. You're never going to find anyone. You're never going to find anyone. But this other voice came in. But what else is there? Is there another way? Is there another way? And that voice then carried me through.
The danger to that is that you reach the end of the road and you know that you didn't address what needed to be addressed because things never got that bad. You know, you're 70 and you go, fuck, I've been miserable for my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
It's never been that bad, but it is now because I'm at the end and I can't change it.
Yeah.
That's the real danger to the human condition.
Yes.
The other thing is, can we voluntarily make things worse? If we're educated and we're wise, you know, can I do something that brings crisis point a bit quicker? So if it was financial, for example, there may be ways that I could get to the point where I need to earn more money and I need to earn it now because I've just put 20 grand in an investment that I can't touch for 5 years. I wonder if there's anything we can do like that in our life, and whether this is, I don't know whether this is forward projection or visualization to the fact that it is going to end. So I know a few people that have had quite good experiences meditating upon their death because they've made it real.
Yes.
They know it's coming. Most of us, me included, have our blinkers on. We don't think we're going to die. We don't think we're going to be old man with a Zimmer frame.
Yeah,
That's not going to be me.
Yeah.
So taking yourself to that place can almost remind you that this is coming to an end. And maybe not when you're 80, maybe when you're 56.
Yeah.
Maybe when you're 42.
Yeah.
I think the most ignorant thing we can do is think we're going to live to 80.
Yes.
So I'm wondering whether we can do things like that take away some of the unnecessary bullshit stress that we think we've got and just place the emphasis on the important stuff.
Yeah, and I think for some people that works, them having that visualization that, you know, they're not going to be, you know, to me that in my lingo is going back to the consequences. Like, what are the consequences if you continue doing what you're doing? And, you know, when I train people to be coaches, I'm looking at what are the intuitive consequences, mental, emotional, spiritual, physical consequences. Because the brain likes to shrink the consequences. Like if you say to someone, well, you know, so if you don't lose the weight, what's going to happen? Well, I'll just be unhealthy. They just shrink the consequences. So that's when you want to help the brain by really making the consequences as big as possible. So you can go, so for me, I was like, okay, what's the consequence if I continue just trying to turn a circle into a square in my relationship? Well, you know, one of it was, well, I'm going to continue being sad, or I'm going to be with him and not with him, and I'll be tired, I'll be worn out, and then I'll be eating too much sugar because I'm trying to make myself feel better. But then when I went to, do you know what am I modelling to my daughter? What am I showing her? How am I turning up for other people? That then made me, I don't like those consequences. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Because most people don't mind personally suffering because we're good at it, but they really don't like thinking about other people's suffering. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just running it through in my head. It almost sounds the opposite of positive thinking, but the outcome is positive.
Yes.
So you're almost looking at that kind of like, consequence over... Yeah, what is the consequence of me staying the same? And you're right. I don't think many people... Well, how do you make that real, though? So I can say it in words. Yeah, the consequence of me not going to the gym, you know, is the fact that I could become overweight. You know, I can't move properly when I'm 65. Do you have to feel that versus it being written? Do you have to see it? Do you have to feel it? Because the words might not be enough, right? And plus, there's always next week.
Yeah. Well, I think for some people... they want to see it, they want to feel it. It depends on their character and what works for them. But I think they need to be challenged when you can go, okay, so what if the consequences are, you know, in 10 years' time, you're not able to do that? How would that make you feel? And can you imagine yourself? What would your life be like? So you can use the imaginations. They can imagine their future self.
I've got you. We started off the podcast, didn't we, by talking about that. You know, you think you've noticed it in the last 5 years, people overthink, and I think this is similar. That I can get my dopamine hit like that.
Yes.
So yeah, it might be painful in 10 years, but I can go and watch porn in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And that can light my brain up. I can go and watch my Netflix. I can be scrolling. I can always do something that really puts me in a what feels good state at the time to delay any of that kind of stuff. And I think we have to be really careful now with our palette of what we watch, what we read, what we can consume.
Yeah.
Because that can keep your eyes completely shut for your entire life. That makes you think you don't need to deal with any of this kind of stuff. Yeah. And it's just like, what kind of life do you want to lead? Do you want to get to the end and that be it? It's terrifying.
Yeah.
But I think the key to going down that like almost consequence route is making sure it doesn't turn into becoming paralyzed or real scarcity. That would be my thing of like, well, how do I use it as fuel rather than reasons for me to just become scared and
rather than fear.
So that fear doesn't drive you. My God, I'm gonna fucking die. Oh my God, all of that versus do you know what? The life comes with these outcomes and rules that I can't evade. I know they're coming. How do I turn that gift that I've been given, my consciousness, that comes with a huge consequence for talking about consequences, you know you're going to fucking die. How do I turn that into a gift?
I think that's helping the person to realise, okay, what is in your control and what is out of your control. You know, because a lot of people go, be healthy, be healthy, be healthy. When you're healthy, you're going to live longer. However, you can be physically healthy, but not mentally, emotionally healthy. So it's about trying to, you know, look at the whole picture really, rather than just one aspect of it. So I think, helping a person go, okay, what is in control on how you want your future self to be? And when do you want to work on that future self? What would it be like if you work on it now? What would it be like if you ignore it for 20, 30 years? And then people are probably a little bit more aware of the consequences. However, I still feel like, the brain, the ego loves denial. It loves denial. Yeah. And some people possibly are going to go through this lifetime in denial.
How do you know? Do you ever question things? Am I in denial? And if so, how do you go about discovering whether the answer is yes or no?
Yeah, because there's going to be parts of me that are in denial because it's part of the psyche. But if I look at my dad, my dad died at 87. He had severe arthritis. He was eating Rice Krispies every day for morning. He's a strong Irishman that genetically could say he needs good proteins and good fats. And I was like, did everything. Dad, don't eat Rice Krispies. You've got arthritis. You shouldn't be da-da-da. And the more I tried, the more he pushed from it. So I was like, do you know what, Dad? And he did have severe arthritis in the end, and he was bent over and then died of a lung condition. But we can't save and fix people. We can only present them with the information, see if they're curious about what could be the possible consequences, and leave the door open that they might step in or step up one day and do what they can.
So I think it's funny, I did a bit of a training on this last week. How do we discover if we're bullshitting ourselves or not? Some things you can put like data to. So if we were working with someone who's 20 stone, we could say, right, although we know the weighing scales might not be the best thing, but every day you're going to weigh yourself, and that will strip away any denial. It will tell you what you weigh. Yeah. And it can remove thoughts, feelings. It will just give you data. So there's some things that we can do to say, yeah, you're bullshitting yourself. You think you're eating great, but you're 20 stone.
Yeah.
So there's some things. I guess maybe there's some questions that we can ask ourselves, perhaps, about deeper things in our life that could perhaps present us with a good answer. So, how have I shown up today? What actions have I done today to suggest that I want this better life? I think there is something that we could do maybe as a practice to suggest or direct us towards whether we're full of shit or whether we're being truthful and honest.
Yeah. Or part of us is full of shit.
Yes.
Rather than all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So part of us might be full of shit.
Sure.
Because that part of us might be loyal to, a deep embedded belief that I don't deserve to be loved or I don't deserve to like my body. If you look at health, really is respecting yourself.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
That's how I put it. And, I was always slim and toned, but I didn't respect my body. I was killing it, exercising like a lunatic. So I think it's, I bring it back to part of me might be bullshitting myself. Yeah, the ego's a trickster. It likes to bullshit itself.
It's what I need to work on. You're bullshitting yourself. That being you, all of you. And I find it hard in the self-talk to separate and go, that's just a piece of you.
Yes.
That's just a voice. I find that really difficult to separate.
Yeah.
And it's, either you're doing really well today or
you're not.
Or you're not.
Yeah.
And it's black and white.
Yeah.
In fact, I've been told this about myself so many times that I am very black and white, where some things can be grey and others are, no, nothing's grey.
Yes.
And maybe it is.
Yeah. And again, that could be, I don't want to say just all men, but, some guys do have, I'm all or nothing. I'm in the gym or I'm not in the gym. I'm working on my business or I'm not working on my business. I'm down the pub or I'm in the pub or I'm not down the pub type thing, that all or nothing mentality. But that's when I found that using the word, no, part of me is bullshitting myself. And, I wonder what the benefit of that is. To me, it's about asking ourselves better quality questions.
Definitely. They will lead to better answers.
Yeah.
But I think so. And there's something really rewarding about feeling pain in the gym as a man, because often we go through life not feeling much or trying not to feel much. So I hate emotions. I fucking hate them, especially things like jealousy and shame. I hate them. They're literally crippling. So when I'm in the gym training, I don't have to feel them. I feel alive when I'm training. When you're doing that horrible workout and you're sweating, so happy. It's my happy place. But I kind of have discovered now that although it's good for my body, there are sometimes some underlying reasons of why I love and going back to myself.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. It's a form of self-punishment. I was great at it.
Sure. But the challenge is it has its payoffs, right? You look good. People tell you look good. You feel like you've done something good. And there's some truth in that as well. But again, if we go back to parts of you versus is good or bad. Yeah. There's a part of me, it's a little bit sick in the gym. I'm like, bring on the pain. I want to feel.
Yeah. But then you can go, cool, and what else would I like to feel? I'd like to feel love and joy and tenderness and vulnerability and, that feminine energy as well as the masculine.
I'm not sure men do want that, although they might need it. That vulnerability it comes up on the podcast all the time. I don't think we do want to be vulnerable. And I'm not sure women want us to be, although it might be the message. It's really, there's real paradoxes and hypocrisy in everything. So the amount of stories I've had from guys who saying when I am vulnerable and I show my weaknesses, it's really not well received. One, I haven't shown these things inside of me for a long time. And it's uncomfortable for the person to see you at your most vulnerable too.
Yes.
Can't it?
Yeah. I think when someone is vulnerable, who they are vulnerable to is very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes we can be vulnerable and the other person's not ready or aware for it. Yeah. So then it triggers them into their stuff. But for me, when my husband's vulnerable, he's the most horniest man in the planet at that moment because he's open and honest. And then I just, listen.
Yeah.
And give him that space. And when I'm vulnerable to him, when there's that little girl in me that, is overthinking something or feeling something, and I can just say, hey, I say, can I share something? And it's vulnerable for me to share. Then I've kind of set the scene. And then when I share it, his brain is prepared also that it's vulnerable.
Okay. Does he do the same?
Yeah.
So he'll say, Eileen, can I share something with you?
Yeah.
It's bothering me, worrying me.
Or it might be, this is hard for me to say.
Yeah. And you'll either say, but can we do it later?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't get to choose when we're vulnerable, though, do we? That's the thing.
Not always.
But you're right. The person on the other end is important.
Yeah.
So I look back in my relationships and I know I haven't been somebody who's allowed my partner to be vulnerable because I can be very critical and jump.
Yes.
The hardest thing in a relationship, Eileen, I think, is to not try and change the other person.
Oh, absolutely.
You want your partner to be like this. Why can't you just be like this?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing.
So fucking hard.
And that for me comes back to, there's 3 stages in a relationship. The first stage is infatuation, and most people are there for generally 90 days.
So good though, isn't it?
Or they stay for 2 years. That's
a
great stage.
And they're on that pedestal.
Yeah.
You're
the second stage, self-acceptance, and it's accepting the judgments that you make about them, but really accepting your own judgments about yourself. I never went to stage 2. Stage 3 was then there'll be your mirror and then mirror back to you the wounds that you haven't healed. People don't want to see that. So they just stay in stage 1. Date.
No, it's so good though. Until you see the cracks in the person and therefore yourself. Isn't that haunting, and horrible when you think somebody's perfect and they're the charmer, the guy with integrity, and then you see a real obvious flaw in them and you're like, oh my God, they're flawed just like me. And I'm going to have to love this flawed person. Yeah. How can I fucking love someone that's completely flawed? It's such a difficult thing to do if you can't love yourself for it.
Yes, absolutely.
This is why it's difficult. So you kind of have to be acceptant of your own flaws.
Absolutely.
Which is tough because, it's easy to project them out on everyone else. They're flawed, I'm good. Yeah. They're bad, I'm good.
And the other person, your experiences, they're flawed. Someone else could date them and love that trait.
Love that flaw, yeah. Or trait, as you call it.
Yeah.
See what I mean about the language is different.
Yeah.
Like flaw, it's trait.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You often hear people who are in love with others who say, do you know what, this really pisses me off, but that's what I love about them. But I do this with my folks now. They're 70. They can drive me mad. But I'm kind of like, the stuff that they do to drive me mad will be the thing that I miss when they're not around. Yeah. My mum's ridiculous, boring stories, for example. Or she, like, if there's a film that she's seen on, she'll tell me everything that's happened from start, middle to end. She'll tell me how the film ends, and then you should watch it. And I'm like, Mum, I'm not going to now. You've just told me how it ends.
Yeah.
But they're the kind of silly things that you'll kind of miss about somebody.
Yeah.
And I think romantic relationships can have the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a bit like kids, right? The thing that you love most, but they're also the thing that could drive you up the fucking wall to kill yourself.
Yeah.
So you'd love and die for them, and
It's the light and the shadow, isn't it? You take both. And if I look at my marriage, it goes round that circle. One day I can wake up and I go, what am I doing with you?
Yep.
And then the next day I'm like, oh my God, you're gorgeous. Yeah. And he's no different. It's just me and where I am and what I'm going through.
Yeah. And I'm just wondering how you reach that point of just that full acceptance of like this relationship is going to be an absolute cocktail of joy, pain, fun, sorrow. Because I think it's very easy to want your relationship to be good all the time.
Not possible.
No. But knowing that helps.
Yes.
Wishful thinking. Elon Musk always says it's the most painful thing you can do in his life is live with wishful thinking.
Yeah.
I wish relationships were just smoother.
Yeah.
Good luck living a life like that.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I wish for everything.
Rather than this is what I like about the relationship, this is what I dislike, and these are my judgments.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So stripping away that and coming down to the reality.
Yeah.
But again, it comes back to self-awareness and doing the work and knowing that. You have to know that.
Yeah.
So it does come back to, I believe, you learning more about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think every human is very similar in certain ways and very different in others.
Yeah.
So again, all that paradox in there.
Yeah.
Out of those three pillars then, business health and relationships.
Yeah.
Obviously, through your site, you're a business coach, right? Do you and mindset and stuff, of course. But do you find that people come to you wanting business help, but then actually it's something completely different that they need?
Absolutely.
Is there anything that flags up as like reoccurring for you and your clients?
Yeah, what's reoccurring is their own relationship with themselves, their need to please or achieve, or they're trying to sort out the moving parts in their life. Boundaries is a massive one, their own boundaries with themselves. So yeah, but often it always comes back to their own relationship with themselves, and then that's what they're trying to project out into the world in some way.
So, number one advice then for someone who wants to build a healthy relationship with themselves, where would they start?
They would start with being honest with themselves.
I heard this great quote. You're like this. Being dishonest ruins all self-development. Something like that. And you have to be honest if you want to develop. Yeah.
And for me, it's just starting with what do you like about yourself, what do you dislike about yourself, both sides of the coin. And then you can look at the third side of the coin. They're all just judgments. Doesn't mean any of them are real or true. They're just judgments that part of you is made up about you. And then start working through those judgments. That's where I started. I was like, okay, rather than I need a man to like me, and when they don't give me that attention, then I feel like I'm abandoned or rejected or not enough, then I'll go on to another guy who will give it me for a while. Then I'll just sit with, how can I learn to like myself?
Would you ever get hubby involved in that game? Because obviously you have a view of what you like and what you don't. Would you ever ask hubby to go, well, can you tell me what you like about me and what you don't? Can you tell me what you think I'm good at and what I don't? So that you get a trusted person that you love to show you things that you might have blinkers on?
Yeah. And again, but when you do that, is not to believe what they say, because it's only their experience. So just to say, well, for me, I like this. For me, I dislike this. It doesn't make it true. So then you don't put the other person in a defended posture. Why don't you like the way that I cook salad, if that makes sense? Like an example, when I met my husband, I, in the health industry, really like to wash my vegetables, like scrub them. I'm like, I'm going to get diseases, parasites, all this stuff off them, chemicals. He's like, Eileen, you're boiling the hell out of the potato. You don't need to do it. So I was like, no, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. He's like, no, I don't do it. And in the end, he was like, do you know what? It was just values. His family got brought up not washing vegetables, mine did. But we're having an argument over it. And in the end, it was like, do you know what? When you do it your way. When I do it my way. And it's kind of learning to agree to disagree. We're pants at that, I think, as human beings.
Terrible. Especially stubborn people, stubborn men.
Yeah.
I fucking hate... I hate to leave things without there being some form of agreement.
Yeah.
But maybe the agreement is we disagree.
Yeah, we disagree.
Yeah. But it's hard to walk away from an argument without wanting to get the last word.
Yeah.
or win.
Yeah. And if you look at that, maybe that's just a part of you as a little kid didn't feel heard.
Sure.
So you've really got to get in there and feel heard. And if they're not hearing you and acknowledging you, you're pissed. So you're going to keep going.
Yeah, there's work to be done.
There's always work to be done.
What's next for you? I'm excited because, like I say, you look like you're doing some incredible work. You've got retreats, mindset workshops. Yeah, what plans have you got now?
Yeah, well, again, I love that man plans and God laughs little sentence.
Okay.
So I'm launching soon my holistic coaching school. So I've been teaching coaches to be coaches for about 4 or 5 years. But now I'm launching it officially. So I'll be doing that over the next couple of weeks, going to Ireland next week to hide away just to be my creative self. So doing that. And then I've been invited on quite a few of the different podcasts to see how they go. I've got a lot of resources on self-talk, self-doubt, self-sabotage. They're not easy resources because it really make you think about yourself.
Sure.
And it's so I just want to give them out more to the world.
Do you like podcasts?
Yeah. I enjoy, get to connect, go out somewhere different for a day. Yeah. You never know, if one person might benefit or can relate to, what you say or what you're sharing, then it helps.
I think so. And again, for me, it's a real total state of flow. So for the last 90 minutes almost, this is all I've done and I love that. I haven't checked an email. I haven't checked my phone.
No.
It's just been like
here,
pure
present.
Yeah, and it's hard to get that in life sometimes. So one of the joys for me is that I get to shut that door and pick someone's brains and learn.
Yeah.
So it's been real fun. So, and a kind of last traditional question, and we'll wrap this up. What do you think you need to work on in order to become what you would define as a better person?
My reactive behaviour.
You're not reactive, are you?
Oh, yes. Yeah, there's still that part of me that wants to defend and prove and be right at times. And my reactive behaviour is a protective mechanism. So, yeah, still working on that reactive behaviour.
What if that gets you what you want?
Partly it does. However, you could just spend time... when you have those days, you're milling over shit for an hour when really, if someone said to you, this is your last 24 hours of life, I wouldn't be going, Spence, you didn't scrub those carrots and it's doing my head in. You just let it go.
Poor Spence.
So I think more that. Yeah. So again, to be even more compassionate, caring, mature individual.
So how do you practice becoming that person?
Living life. Being a human being and allowing myself to be a human being. So if I get pissed off or shout or say something inconsiderate and not compassionate, just go, do you know what? That's what I did in that moment. Park it there and this is what I'd like to do next time. Yeah. So take off that judging, beating yourself up stick.
Cool. Should we leave it there?
Leave it there.
That was great. Well, it's just great to see you and catch up.
Yeah, great to see you
you're
too.
Looking great. And
thank you.
I love the work you're doing. I'm obsessed with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So to have the opportunity to talk was really cool. So I love that. I'm actually really looking forward to listening back to that one.
Yeah.
There's a lot in there.
And thanks for doing your part of your jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, I've come away from, I hate calling myself a coach or a life coach. I say to the guys now, I'm going on this journey of self-discovery and learn. Do you want to come with me?
Yeah.
And I find that more liberating because I really don't think I know anything. I don't think many people know much.
I think I'm still a student as far as I'm concerned.
You always will be, but that's what makes you great
at
what you do. It's that white belt mentality, we call it. You always want to learn.
Yes.
You're always open.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think just saying that is quite a refreshing thing for the guys, and we'll go and do cool shit together and learn.
Yeah, brilliant.
Podcasts like this. So thank you. That was awesome.
Oh, you're welcome.
Cool.